But one thing I do want to mention is, like, for a new game, it's granted it's a spiritual successor to Mega Man, so we're expecting a Mega Man-esque game, and it does deliver on that front, where it plays. The actual controls do feel good; they're responsive. Mm-hmm. You know, when you shoot, and all that kind of reacts as you'd like it to.
Jumps and shoots.
You would like some more innovation other than just the dash, because we've dashed in Mega Man before.
Yeah.
You know,
like we saw innovation with like Mega Man X and so on.
So to see not really much new here, other than like, oh, you can weaken them and gain things.
Yeah.
That's also really disappointing. Where it's like, come on, guys, like, I know we're expecting a Mega Man type game, but at the end of the day,
the key is to add on to that.
Yeah, you know, this is supposed to be its own thing.
Like I don't envy that position because it's a very precarious balancing act of staying true to the original, yet adding just enough, not too much to overbloat and overcomplicate things, but just enough to make it like fresh and invigorated and have some cool new gameplay mechanics.
Now, one thing I do want to mention that I did like, you know, kind of on our pros and cons and me just kind of giving you my overview of the game, is that rather than killing the mighty numbers that you fight, you save them.
Oh.
You don't kill them. You help them out. And the basic plot of this game is very,
it's not all like, sorry old Jala, you gotta go.
Basically, it's very much a Mega Man X sort of thing where, like, some sort of unknown virus or unknown catastrophe is happening where all the robots have kind of gone nuts. Like Mavericks. And, only Beck can kind of reabsorb that whatever's going wrong and make it right. So he goes and frees his fellow mighty numbers, his brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
And once you do that on the stage select screen, on one hand it makes it a little cheap because part of what makes Mega Man fun is kind of guessing, okay, what weapon would work on here? Mm-hmm. Some are obvious, like, okay, fire is going to work against ice.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Go on.
But like once you beat the mighty number, they actually kind of come up and say, "Hey!"
Oh my God, no!
It's like, and now on one hand,
I was hoping that wouldn't be the case, but I was like, oh, wait a minute, are they just gonna straight up tell you? Oh.
Well, I mean, they do and they don't. Granted, like if you see the mighty number,
it's good against this guy.
No, they don't do that.
Okay,
it's not that. It's not as blatant as that. Granted, like them being on the screen on that stage does mean that weapon's going to work against that boss.
Oh, okay.
But what they do is, they will come into the stage and help out some of the background hazards.
Oh, okay.
So they actually do show up and help you out a little bit.
I mean, I guess that could be cool.
Now, I did enjoy that.
But
seeing
then,
like the
you're right. It would make the stage like a fucking cakewalk sometimes, huh?
Only in certain parts. Like the only reason why it makes it a little cheap is the fact that, like, as I said, like if that particular mighty number shows up in that stage, it's like, okay, that's their weapon to use against this boss. And, like fire versus ice is the clear.
Like hint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Granted, some weren't as obvious, so it was like, okay, well, that's a help. Mm-hmm. And like I do enjoy seeing like the interactions and what they do, and it did make certain parts bearable. Like they stopped certain hazards attacking you from the background, which was hard to do to avoid for some of them. But yeah, so that I liked. I enjoyed seeing the fact that it wasn't all about just like kill them and move on. It's like, oh, you can save them. You save them and then you kind of keep going, and they help you out. I like that. I'm totally for that. Which kind of brings us to our last few stages. In the factory stage, there's one section where, the mighty numbers are helping you and they're kind of destroying things. But to me, it got so cluttered. There was so much activity, like both background and foreground, that I couldn't really concentrate on what I'm supposed to be attacking.
Excuse me, guys.
It's like, guys, I can't see what I'm doing here. Could you please move out of the way? Stop moving. Please stop moving.
You're lost in the mix.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't have ADD, but come on, guys, this is pushing it.
There's too much, like, things.
Oh. There are too many things. Huh. And the last stage, very last stage, which, now granted, it's the last stage of the game, you expect it to be hard. Not as hard as it shouldn't have been that hard. Because it gets to a section where you have to pretty much kind of hover, fly, a dash over an area where there's no ground, and you only kind of had to do that a little bit in one stage, but you really didn't have any incentive to use one of the weapons where it's like a propeller in any other stage whatsoever. So to then be like, hey, you do this, took some learning. But also the last stage, like the last boss, Trinity, was so much of a gauntlet. And this is kind of where you wish, it's like, okay, I really kind of long for the days of an E-Tank. Because even Mega Man games at its hardest did have some level of fairness to it. Where like, yes, Dr. Wily has multiple forms, but I at least have chances to, if I mess up, I can heal myself and keep going.
Yeah.
Whereas for this, if you don't have those energy reserves, you're screwed.
And that just feels like you're gonna have to go grind enemies and stuff to get that shit.
But you can't, that's the thing.
Oh yeah,
At a
because you
certain
dropped
point.
right in, yeah. Like, yeah, only if you're like right before the boss door and there's some enemies, I guess.
Well, the way this works is like, if you die at this particular boss, which has two forms, you know, sometimes a little helper robot at the end of right before each boss will give you some power-ups.
Yeah.
You know, it's a crapshoot of what it'll give you, and usually not the power backup that you need.
Like Eddie, yeah.
Kinda. They're like little plug-looking things. Those are sort of the support robots in this game. So, really, the only way to beat Trinity is to basically do a near-perfect job on the first form, which takes a lot of learning, and then hope and pray you can outlast the second form.
Oof.
Because, and it took me, I kid you not, like at least 5 tries, dying multiple times, and I had my life set out to max, in terms of how many lives I started with. I think I had it like at 9. So I had to redo the whole stage at least 5 times. So think about that. I got to the point where I could get to the stage just fine without dying.
Yeah.
But then I kept dying to Trinity.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again. It took me many times to beat it.
Damn.
That doesn't usually happen for me in Mega Man games. And also the ending was also lackluster, but you know, what do you expect for a overall meh story to begin with? Now, on my particular version, I also had the extended cut where I had an extra stage where I could face Ray, which was a unlockable character. Think of like Zero.
Yeah.
Or Bass.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. And that was also interesting and fun. And the way Ray works is, you know, she has constantly depleting health. So it's sort of like beat this game on hard mode, and the only way to get your health back up is to kill enemies, dash through them. So it's sort of like, it really hard. Encourages you to, but you have to really book it. Like, kill them, keep going.
Yeah.
Reach the end so you don't die. I didn't really do that because I felt I had got the experience I needed.
That's just for a challenge.
That's for challenges.
Yeah, God.
And there are other challenge maps and things that you can do in Mighty Number 9, but again, there's no incentive to do it because you don't really unlock anything, as far as I know. And the online content, you know, like the co-op modes and things, that's been on all platforms, a broken mess. A complete broken mess to the point where I was like, I don't even want to bother.
It's so sad to keep hearing how many things are so broken. God.
And, you know, as I said, like, I did have some fun with the game. I don't think it's a terrible game. But I don't think it's great either. It's not bad. It's okay. But it's certainly one where I would be very picky and choosy of which platform you use it on. Because from what I heard, like, as I said, on mine, the biggest issue was long loading times. But for other people with the Wii version, it did much worse. Like, apparently it
bricked their system.
It bricked their system.
That's why when you got that, you inquired, I was like, shit. Like, I kind of let you have your space with the game. I was like, let's see how he'll talk to me about it eventually. And then it's just like so quiet. I was like, shit, did it brick his console? I hope it didn't brick his console.
Oh no, trust me, you would have heard.
I think I warned you about that in a text. I was like, dude, be careful. I've been hearing this game bricks Wii U's.
You know, I never had that issue.
Which is fucking terrible.
That is pretty bad.
Like, your tipping point's a lot more lenient, but for me, just looking at it with my outsider perspective, I would say there's too many cons to outweigh the pros. Like you mentioned all these bad points, and those are pretty big bad points for me. You know, what I look for in a game. You know,
right?
Like if it has no innovation, if it has glitchiness,
I would say very
bugs,
little innovation.
Yeah, very little innovation. Like, yeah, we have the dash, and if it has, like, you know, just like bad level design. Like you're looking for these things in that game. So I would say it's a pass. Like
I would say only play it if you get it up cheap. But also, as I say, be very mindful of which platform you choose on, because I heard they all have their problems. Apparently,
you heard like the PC one's
like the
pretty
PC
shit too, huh?
game. Yeah, from what I've seen, can be very, very clunky. It can cause a lot of frame rate slowdowns and can even mess up your computer while it's running. So you have to turn it off and then restart it.
Damn.
The Xbox version was late.
Yep.
Because there were problems with that. So I don't know if it runs. That's the thing. I'm not sure which one it runs the best on, because they all have issues. I would say.
Oh God.
I would say overall, skip the online portions, because that's the parts that's working the least. I would say maybe the PS4 version is probably the most stable, which I don't have.
Who knows? Who knows?
So I would say check it out if you can get the game cheap, but also be mindful of which system you put it on. And some of the things I do want to leave off on is the fact that, on one hand, yes, we were expecting a Mega Man type game, but it was never going to be Mega Man. It never was. It was going to be its own. It was supposed to be its own thing. It was always going to be Mighty Number 9. The fact that we kept calling it Mega Man .2 or whatever we wanted to say, that's not really what they were going for. So certain things I can understand why maybe they didn't want to innovate too much. I don't know for sure. Because at the end of the day, like, they did have an audience to please. Mm-hmm. And also, the fact that Keiji Inafune, I don't know the entire context of the article, kind of stated that it was better than nothing. It's also a little like, what?
Well, it's been on record, like, you know the guy behind Bayonetta?
Yeah.
He said he's known the guy, and he says that Inafune he's not a game creator, he's a businessman, and he meant that in the most insulting manner, as you can probably guess. And it's really sad to hear something like that, especially from such a beloved creator from such a golden genre of video games. Like, he was one of the big guys. Like in Japan, they have that whole thing of the auteur movement, where separate creators are just kind of jumping ship with companies and just starting their own thing. You saw that with Hideo Kojima and everything.
Right.
They just kind of like jump ship and like, okay, if you don't let me make my game, I guess I'll just find another way, like through funding or whatever with Kickstarter. Right. Kickstarter has made that possible. What if he really said that? Then damn, like it just you're the creator. You were behind this. I look at it as like a director of a film. It's like whether it like succeeds in the box office or flops, you gotta take responsibility of it. You know, it's like that's what you were behind, and you just gotta be like, this is what happened during production, and like I take responsibility. Like, yeah, we had our issues, but we tried our best. And like, you don't just release a film and it was like really shitty and like go like, oh, it's better than nothing. Like that's not pushing the envelope at all. That's not trying to do anything innovative.
Now, one thing that also puzzles people is the fact that while they were still in production of Mighty Number 9, and even after it had already been delayed, I think at that point, or they had announced it wasn't going to be ready on their first. It may have been like they announced their first delay. They then tried to kickstart another game.
Yep.
Which was Red Ash, I believe. Mm-hmm. And that did that, and that actually they did 2 Kickstarters for Red Ash. One for a game, one for an anime.
An anime?
Now here's the odd thing: the game itself, the Kickstarter for that failed. Mm-hmm. They did not reach their goal.
Yeah.
They did reach their goal for the anime pilot.
Really?
So they are still working on that. But to me, it's like, why on earth would you put out a Kickstarter for a game when you haven't even finished the first one that you promised?
Yeah.
And in doing so, and I think it's still going to be made anyway, because I think they made a deal with someone to help co-develop it, so they were going to get the funds anyway.
Company behind it.
Not the anime itself. The anime got funded, but I'm saying the game.
Oh, the game. Okay.
I think that may have gotten a different sort of funding thing, where it's like, even if the Kickstarter fails, we're still going to make it anyway.
Okay.
I'm not sure about that. I do know the anime intro pilot thing they're making, that's going to be made at some point. And they even got some funding from like some like cultural Japanese things of like, hey, you're making a thing that we really want to see. And I don't know all the details because this isn't really about Red Ash, and maybe we'll talk about that some other day.
I had no idea. I haven't. This is the first I've heard of it.
But I know it seems like, why are you splitting your sights on this? You should have been focusing on Mighty Number 9, the thing that's going to. You're a brand new company. You haven't made anything yet. This is the thing. This is your debut game.
And honestly,
you should be putting everything into this.
And honestly, it looks like he doesn't care. Like, to put it bluntly.
I don't know. I don't know the man.
Yeah, no, I know we can never like know for sure, but with these actions and what we can base off these actions, it looks like he just like. If he was just moving on to some other thing and also saying like, well, it's better than nothing. Like, there's only so much slack we can give as like understanding as the audience, as the gamers, as the other. Like you were saying, is it the company's? Is it Concept's fault or whatever, or is it our fault for having too high expectations or what?
Well,
like,
that was actually my next talking point, because I did ask James this question to kind of think about this before we film, which is, we can put a lot of blame on Concept and Inafune, but are we also part of this blame? Because we as gamers are not exactly, we don't have a history of being understanding and nice about certain things. And, when we put so much pressure on them, when we funded nearly everything they threw at us for the stretch goals, that's a lot of pressure. Like, we made them, like, granted, they could have said, okay, we should put a cap right here and say, that's enough. And
a lot of people would argue that like it's a lot of pressure, but guess what? It's a lot of money. That holds
a lot of money.
Like responsibility. Like if it were just a lot of promises made without any like financial backing, then yeah, the pressure is more valid. But
like after so many delays, like as I say, like I'm okay with a delayed game if it's functioning and great. But did we put too much like? Did they need more time? Because since the engine they were using was out of date, but they felt they couldn't delay it anymore. Like, because it certainly does feel like certain parts were unfinished.
Yeah.
Or like the lackluster level designs of like, just put it up, put it in.
Right. Ship it.
Right. So did we make them do this? Like, did we make them prematurely release this game because they felt they couldn't hold it off anymore? Or because did we back them into a corner because we were just like, where's our game?
Well, I don't know. Was the forums like lit on fire with like come on, what's taking so long? Come on, guys! Like, was it like that?
Well, there was certainly a general consensus. Not so maybe in the forums, because I think the people who stuck around, because I think after a while people were like, and left.
Jeez.
But the general consensus was, it's like some people were like, I'm still looking forward to the game, versus like I'm kind of regretting I backed it because it's so long. Like. Mm-hmm. People were starting to sour about it. And, that's just kind of the nature of the gaming culture where after a while you want it.
Like, here are my thoughts on this. Like, who's at fault? I can't say, but I can say this, that when so many people have funded it, and the expectations are high, they got to make sure they take the time to make a quality product. And they obviously didn't. Like, my general thoughts are they bit off more than they can chew. Like, they just took on way too much. Sometimes part of being a project manager for something like this, like, especially in video game designs, is like to limitate things. Like, it's all fine and good. Like, that's the danger, the double-edged sword of Kickstarter is like everyone's like, oh yeah, let's put this in and this and this and oh yeah, this. Like, they just keep wanting to put more shit in, but like. You gotta scale it back, take a deep breath, and say, okay, let's just make the thing, the bare bones skeleton first before we move on.
To tag up on that.
Here's an example.
Okay.
Yandere Simulator. I don't know if you heard of this game, but it's a game that's gotten a lot of hype as well, and I think it might go the same way as this. Maybe not as worse. The guy seems to know what he's doing, surprisingly, but at the same time, I worry because. My main worry is like people kept funding it and kept wanting to add more shit, and he kept reaching his goals, so he had to check off this stretch goal and this stretch goal, and like it started out with just him, this one guy developer making this thing, kind of just as the knockoff funny like you get to be yandere and like worship senpai and kill everyone. That would be like
I've heard of that game.
Yeah, and like now he wants to add so much stuff, and to the point where it's like. I looked at all the things he was adding, and I was like, this game's not looking like the original game anymore. Like, You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
where it's just like there's so much, like it's becoming unfocused. You need to refocus your efforts on the core. Why everyone fell in love with it in the first place? Because now Yandere Simulator has all these like little subsystems. Like now you can go into town. Now you can go here and there. Like just keep it in the school. That's the main place. And your house, where you have some girl chained up in the basement. Like keep it simple. You know.
Keep it simple. Keep it dark. But
Yeah,
keep it
dark
simple.
and simple. Like my coffee. And like that's what I felt happened with Mighty Number 9. It's like even though they had a bigger team, the same thing happened. Yeah, they had lots of obstacles. The engine fell apart and everything, but I think one main thing that I could even see from the outside, even I noticed, they were not upfront with their audience. When you do these things on Kickstarter and any fundraising site, these new revenues to fund games, avenues to fund games, you just got to be upfront with your backers. That's how the developers of Shovel Knight were. That's how the developer of Undertale was. Whenever a snag was hit, he was upfront and very honest and very open to people. Then, I've heard they were very close-lipped and not entirely telling the truth. That's what I heard. And honestly, that doesn't surprise me because Inafune comes from a, to put it delicately,
very old school
he comes
style.
from an old school time of Japanese development. I'm not saying it's right or wrong or anything, but back in that time with Japanese development of games, like if problems were happening in the game, you keep your lips shut, you fix it in-house, and you don't let it leak out to the public. And that's how it kind of was with Concept. They just were like not upfront. And that's the thing that must have soured so many people.
Perhaps, and
That's where the understanding waned.
And I certainly don't envy the developers and the writers for this game
Yeah, because
like,
honestly, that probably wasn't even.
because not only because like think about this game was scheduled to come out for pretty much every console, current and a generation behind. So
Yeah.
it was scheduled for the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, Wii U, 3DS,
Yep.
PlayStation whatever, not PlayStation 2, but
A
like you
huge
got the
undertaking.
the Xbox One. That's what I was thinking
Like
of.
any of you that know how
So-
to program games,
and-
might know
and
that that's a
PC.
fucking nightmare.
And PC. So all these different formats, all these different platforms, they have to code for each and every single one.
Released on Ouya, released on Steambox. God.
So not only do they have to work
Yeah.
out the bugs for one version, they have to do it for all of them. And release it all on the same
I don't
day.
even think that's simply enough enough play testing can be done in like a reasonable amount
So
of time.
no wonder they had to delay it a couple times. I can't even imagine how difficult that must have been because each of those consoles, each of those formats have so vastly different, specs and capabilities.
And once again, that leads me back to my point of they should have downscaled. They should have just released it on a few consoles that they knew how to do well. And then if it got selling and it got going, once the ball was rolling, then they could spread out to other consoles.
It should have been on the bare minimum 3 things, maybe 4 for PC.
Like the big 3 consoles.
But I would
or
say,
whatever, right?
PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Wii U. Those should have been the big ones, especially the Wii U version, because Mega Man has always been a Nintendo. I mean, granted, it's been on PlayStation and other things, but
Yeah,
that's
X.
where its roots were.
Yeah.
So of course it should have been on Nintendo. It should have been on PlayStation because Mega Man was on PlayStation for a long time. And of course, Xbox One, that's the big one that people have been looking for things, and it's...
Yeah.
I don't know, how it compares power-wise to the PlayStation 4. I know the Wii U isn't
it's
as
pretty
strong.
good.
But they're on par with their power and capabilities, so those are the big 2 that all should have... As I said, those 3 should have been the top priority.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that should have been above all else, these have to work perfectly. These have to look the best. We can scale back for a handheld. We can scale back for a PS Vita or 3DS or whatever other things.
Mm-hmm.
For PC, yes, that's an important genre now, that for Steam and all that sort of thing, so we can't ignore PC, but that shouldn't be the priority. That should be yes, that should be certainly our number 4. But, because some people don't have the buttons and things, they just have keyboard things or whatever.
Yeah.
We need to make sure that it feels right as a console game first, because that's what it is in essence. That's what we were striving for. And because they didn't, because they tried to do everything all at once, that certainly must, and with an outdated engine no less.
Yeah.
That's, I think, part of
It
why...
was just a recipe for disaster.
But the thing is, like,
Simply they
as
were
I said
stretched way
earlier,
too
like,
thin.
who knows if it would have been better to start from scratch with something new, or if going the way they did was the best option. Because who knows how far along they were when they realized that they couldn't, that the thing they were using wasn't going to be updated anymore, and they couldn't, and they had to do everything by hand, manually, which expedited the time they had to do substantially, or extended the time, I should say.
I was like, expedited.
Expedited makes it faster.
Expedited to failure.
Yeah. But who knows? Like, you know, we weren't there. I don't know how to make it, so... But in closing, I do want to say that when we look to the future for things, you know, this has hurt some people's views on Kickstarter games. And I do want to say that it's not everything's going to be a Mighty Number 9. Because from what I've seen of things like Pinstripe, or Ukulele, or Bloodstained, we have some things to look forward to.
Oh, Bloodstained. It's beautiful.
You know, those things look like they are taking their time, they're doing it right.
Like, I think it was bound to happen that there was gonna be a kick. Like, everyone was like, man, this Kickstarter, this is like the new fucking, like, it's the MVP of funding good shit that we want. Like, it's like the people's funding thing, the democracy of it. And like, can it fail? Well, eventually I was like, I foresaw this a long time ago. I was like, with Kickstarter, I was like, there's eventually going to be something that comes along that's... heck, even before Mighty Number 9, I'm sure there's plenty of games, other ones that failed. That, like, they got funded and they did not deliver.
When we look at the Ouya, that was a thing, and it failed.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, it was sort of like what do you expect? It's this thing that's going to play tablet games on your home thing.
Yeah,
that's what they said it was going to be. That's what it was.
Like, people were drawn to that, like... They were drawn to, like, the potential. Yeah, and that's what people are drawn to in many of these things on Kickstarter. Yeah. They're drawn to the potential of what it could be. But
I would say, don't let Mighty Number 9 sway you from contributing to things that are on Kickstarter. Because I would say that if you see something that you think has potential, even though that's the word that you just kind of use as a slang in this case, but if you see something that sparks your interest, that you look at and say, you know, I would like to see this in creation. I would like to see this in existence.
Yeah, there's always some risk, but you never know. It could turn out really good.
I would say fund it, because at the end of the day, I'm happy we got Mighty Number 9. Like, I'm not unhappy that it doesn't exist. I would much rather people's creations be a reality.
Like, hell, I think the whole making of Mighty Number 9 is indicative of, like, people were jonesing for a Mega Man. They're like, unleash, like, release him from his prison. You know, like, people would make jokes on the internet all the time of, like, Mega Man being just chained up in a basement because he's not allowed to do anything. And so, with all that funding, what does that tell us? That tells us
that shows
people
will
want that because they wanted it. Exactly.
They still do.
We didn't get exactly what we wanted, but it showed that the hunger was there. Like, people wanted it so bad, and Capcom wasn't fucking delivering, so they had to reach from somewhere else, and we took that risk. And we didn't get something perfect, but we got something. We did get something.
I mean, as he said, better than nothing, I suppose. But, you know, hey, Capcom, we still want this guy around, you know. So if you could make another Mega Man game, that'd be awesome. I'd really love that. But as I said, we do have things to look forward to. I'm very looking forward to Bloodstained, because I did really like Symphony of the Night. That was a great game. Not one I grew up with, so I don't have as much attachment to it. Because I played that as an adult.
You gotta backdash, backdash. Yeah, backdash.
And, you know, I'm really looking forward to Ukulele, because that's a genre of games I didn't get to experience as a kid. Like, I've never played Banjo-Kazooie.
It looks great.
It looks fantastic. And hey, it features a bat, and bats are my favorite animals of all time.
Yeah.
And Pinstripe I'm really looking forward to, too. Because, you know, that's someone who, you know, even though I didn't follow him as much, well, he's an old school Newgrounds creator who made games and stuff. So, you know, like, going from a site like that to making a big game, that's kind of cool too.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to those, and by the way, I backed all 3 of those.
Oh yeah?
Yeah,
because I know about Pinstripe. But
yeah, so hopefully when those come out, whenever they do, and if they get delayed, great, because that means they're still working on it. But I don't think they are. I haven't heard anything from the updates I've gotten. I think everything is pretty much on schedule from whatever they are coming out.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to those, and hey, maybe we'll play them on our channel. But that's really all I need to say about Mighty Number 9. But I would love to hear from you guys. Let us know in the comments, you know, your experiences with Mighty Number 9, like what you think
Try to keep it tame, guys. We understand.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you can rage out all you like. You can share your opinions. You can say, you can show maybe I'm being too nice on the game for saying.
Show
like,
some new glitches.
Yeah, hey, show me things I haven't seen. And say, tell us your experience with different consoles, and also like, answer my question. Like, are we partially to blame for all of this? This debacle of Mighty Number 9, or is it solely on Concept and Inafune, or do we share and shoulder some of this blame?
A little bit of both.
A little bit more, probably a combination of both. But let me know in the comments, and thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned for more, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.